Welcome everyone to Total War Pharaoh. In this series of videos, we'll be going over all of the new units Pharaoh is bringing, broken down by both the regional native units, recruitable by all factions provided they own territory in that area, and the faction units are unique to the individual playable factions in-game. To make things easy to locate, all native unit regions will have their own video and will be sorted into a playlist, and all faction units will be grouped by their overall cultural alignment, Egyptian, Canaanite, and Hittite. They'll also have their own playlist once the second video for each is uploaded. If there are any changes made to overall stats and abilities, I'll do my best to add those in a pinned comment in this video, that way it's easy to compare exactly what is different going forward. We'll be staying in Hattusa this episode and taking a look at the lineup you'll have access to when playing as Suppiluliuma II, the last great king of Hatti. This will actually be a blend of Suppi himself and the units accessible only to the great king of Hattusa, which you'll start as when playing as this faction. Meaning from the very beginning, you'll be able to recruit a selection of 4 uber-powerful Tier 6 units through a special recruitment screen, and wield their awesome power as long as you can pay their hefty upkeep costs. Your army with Suppiluliuma is going to be very heavily armored and very defensive, which will require a coordinated effort of hammer and anvil in your chariots and melee line to see victory. Meanwhile, the Great King's elite units are going to be very powerful all-rounders that are loaded up with stats and abilities to make them the monsters Hatti needs to keep their kingdom safe from predators. Let's dive into the pros and cons of each. Starting with the cons of Suppiluliuma's faction-specific units. While this Hattusan faction does have access to some missile troops, they're not going to be winning any duels with other missiles, and are really only there to provide a bit of extra chip damage or to move in and punish enemy archers that focus too long trying to weaken your infantry lines. You'll be glad to have them for sure while you have nothing else in terms of missiles. You just want to utilize them a bit more carefully, as they're below average. As nearly all of this roster is in the heavy armor class, they will all suffer in terms of mobility, and will be penalized the most by terrain debuffs, so you'll really need to find the best place on the map to hold the line, and build up your defenses as quick as you can. Getting caught in the open is a good way to get cut to ribbons quickly, even in all that armor. You'll also find this roster very lacking in actual armor-piercing damage, having no clubmen, and no two-handed weapon wielders except for your very first-tier Hittite tribesmen, which are more for anti-chariot use. The battle strategy for Suppiluliuma is going to be very much hammer and anvil, with your armored frontline and heavy chariots, or just grinding your foe into nothing with sheer weight of armored numbers. Luckily, as the Great King of Hatti, you're also going to have a couple of units they'll get to later on that'll fill in the flanking infantry role quite well. Keep a wary eye on your legitimacy in campaign, lest you lose your top-tier units. Overburden trait you'll find on many non-elite heavy infantry is going to be scattered amongst Suppi's roster as well. Any units you do recruit with this are going to lose stamina much faster, as well as take greater penalties from sand, mud, and shallow water terrain types. The actual battlefield itself can be more dangerous for your soldiers of Hattusa if you're not checking the map before giving orders. Onward now to the pros, first of which being that this is easily the most heavily armored roster in the game, with the very lowest outside of your expendable units being 85, and most sitting above 100. Your soldiers are going to last longer than any other in a straight-up fight, and will be able to buy plenty of time for repeated crushing chariot charges, or for you to overwhelm one flank and roll the rest of your foe's army from there. To counteract their mobility issues, all spear units will also have flanking resistances, which will allow you to place them in very frontal positions to build up blobs of enemy fighters, and smash those newly formed flanks to pieces with your axemen and chariots. Your spearmen will also be able to replenish their own stamina as long as they're out of melee, which really allows you to push this unit to the maximum, getting to a position as quickly as you can, knowing they'll be able to enter that battle fresh provided they have a bit of time to stand around and rest. Suppiluliuma's roster will also come with the Storm Warriors trait on all infantry, which will allow them to fight unhindered in rain, storm, and thunderstorm weather types, a common theme across the warriors of Hatti. Climate resistances in this title are always going to be very worth having, as they'll allow you to defend your homelands from the Sea People and other empires with a bit of home court advantage. This faction's heavy chariots are going to be a huge part of your battle strategy, for good reason. Suppi's heavy chariots come with a ton of armor, a ton of charge bonus. They'll punch right through a light or medium infantry line no problem. Will be the doom of enemy missiles or units busy fighting your heavy spears. The elite version of your chariots will have even a few javelins to toss at pursuing rollers, or for softening up an enemy line further before charging. They'll also cause fear, so often your foes will break long before you take out the entire unit. Now let's get to talking about the King's specific units that are going to be recruitable in limited numbers every harvest season. Since Suppiluliuma starts as the Great King of Hatti, Great King's elite units will be yours to select as soon as the power of the crown unlocks at the first Shimsu Hor 6 turns into a campaign. From this moment on, you'll have 2 of each unit added to the special recruitment tab each Shimsuhor. Do note that you aren't able to stack more than 2 of each of these units, so you won't be able to save them up and build a massive army of Great King only units on the fly. Each of your Great King units is easily going to be best in slot for whichever role they're meant to fill. Golden Spears are a near indestructible heavy spear unit that will slaughter chariots foolish enough even to try a rear charge on them. They'll be providing a decent amount of killing potential against enemy infantry, with improved flanking attacks and more melee attack than your typical defensive unit. The Seti are an excellent and very heavily armored medium-class infantry that excels at outmaneuvering enemy shield units. Improved flanking attacks and improved stats on any other elite axemen will carve right through whatever you throw them at with frightening speed, while also being able to hold the line quite well with their 100 armor and very high melee defense. Royal Hittite Chargers are going to be where you see the most devastation caused by any of your Hattusa melee infantry. All 59 of their damage is going to be armor piercing. They'll have 44 charge bonus and 2 extra javelins to toss before melee. Cracking through the weakest point of the defensive line or just devastating the flanks will be the Chargers' bread and butter. You'll see very high kill counts every battle they take part in. As for your Royal Hittite Chariots, these will be the pride of your armies, and absolutely terrifying to see rolling over the hillsides for your foes. You'll have the most armor out of all chariots, most charge bonus, and have 10 devastating javelins to throw, and are tied with the Pharaoh's chariots in Egypt for the highest overall melee stats. Utilized properly, they will outright win you battles you would otherwise had no chance in. I absolutely love these chariots. You should recruit as many as you could reasonably afford, and then 10 more. The one downside to all of the Great King units is going to be their actual number of men per unit, which is going to be 90. Your chariots are unaffected by this and have the typical 16 associated with heavy chariots. All of the Great King infantry will have the underdog trait, which boosts stats as long as they're fighting more than one enemy unit. These don't actually do all that much to balance out the huge disadvantage you're in when completely surrounded or attacked in the flank. Make sure they're either being utilized as an honor guard style unit or to protect your flanks and destroy your rivals. The cost of actually maintaining them will also be something to keep in mind. They'll require food, bronze, and gold to upkeep, so they will be very taxing on your economy. Only recruit them when you absolutely need the extra elite troops or when your empire can handle the strain. But what do you all think about both the heavily armored unit Suppiluliuma is fielding and our units unique to the Great King of Hatti? Do they stack up and earn the title of Defenders of the Last Great King? Let me know in the comments below, but I am out of time for today. We'll have the units and their stat cards roll on through now, but I have been Space Wizard Total War. Remember to leave a like for the Light God and a sub to the Sub Zone. We'll see you all in the next one.